Lord Balaram, when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, as we were doing just moments ago, the Hare Krishna mantra goes, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that Rama, Hare Rama, in the second half of the mantra, that is addressing Lord Balaram. Yes, well actually it's also addressing Lord Ramachandra. There are a few forms of the Lord who can be addressed by that term Rama. But in this particular case here we're addressing Lord Balaram. So it'll be his appearance day, if I remember correctly, on the 19th. On the 19th, just coming up, what? In 10 days. Is it Monday?
Yes.
In 10 days, right, on Monday. Yes, so an important occasion because Lord Balaram is a form of the original Supreme Lord, Lord Sri Krishna. He is actually described as his first expansion. The Supreme Lord expands in many, many forms, unlimited numbers of forms actually, for carrying out different functions of his, like the functions to do with the creation of this world, with the maintenance of this world, then with the destruction of this world. As we understand from the Vedic literatures, this whole process I just mentioned of creation, maintenance, and then destruction of this world, the material world we're living in right now. It is cyclical. It's cyclical. It means it just goes on and on. Creation, now we're in a period of maintenance. The creation's already here, so it's just going on for the time being. But after some time it'll be destroyed, and then after it's been destroyed, it'll be recreated again. You know, the term creation tends to imply something like from nothing, but really perhaps the appropriate term is re-engineer. Matter is indestructible. It's just transformable. But it can't be like annihilated and put out of existence. It's eternally existing, but it just, by the will of the Lord, it just manifests in different forms, and in the meantime it changes forms, like our bodies. We were all children before, and most of us here are adults, some of us are old. I'm pretty old myself. I'll be 73 in a couple of days. Anyway, yeah. So when we were children, we had bodies like about your size. How old are you now?
10.
6.
10.
10! I'm so sorry. You've been to a thing here. 10, wow, okay. So we were all 10 years old. I don't really remember much of it, but we all were. And now we're whatever age we are now. And some of us are quite old actually. So, yes, our bodies have changed. Particularly, I mean, what to speak of being 10, but what to speak of being one day old or something like that, just having appeared in this world. So our bodies have changed dramatically. And our minds, our consciousness has also changed tremendously from when we were little the different interests that we had when we were little children, playing with toys and sort of childish pursuits. But now we're adults and our interests have changed tremendously. Yes, so the body has changed, the mind has changed, but we know we are the same person. We are the same entity. Even though we may be 50, 60, 70, or whatever it may be, or 10. So, yeah, particularly, if you're in old age, 60 plus, something like that, then your body and your state of mind, your things you're attracted to, things you're repulsed by, they've changed tremendously from when you were a child. But still, you're the same person. You are the same entity. So anyway, that's a whole subject matter in and of itself. But the Supreme Lord, He appears within this world. He appears Himself. He sends His representatives sometimes for the purpose of helping the conditioned souls within this material world. That's us, people who generally are struggling in this material world. I think anyone who's honest, or if not just honest, but can see things clearly enough, will understand life in this world is a bit of a struggle. It's a bit of a struggle. It goes on, and then you die. So, but now the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Person, the circumstances of His appearance within this world are quite different from ours, because He's not just a material living being like us, with bodies like us, like ours, made of flesh and bone and blood and all the usual things. But His body, He Himself and His body are all transcendental, spiritual, of a different nature to this material world. This material world where, of course, matter itself is eternal, but its forms are temporary, like our bodies. They have changed so much. So matter is temporary, prone to ignorance. We've all been to school, but who here can remember? When I was at school, I learned, would you believe, I learned Latin for a few years, 3 or 4 years. I can remember the declension of one verb, amo amas amat, amamus amatus, amant. That means I love, you love, he, she, or it loves, we love, you plural love, and they love. That's about all I can remember. I don't know if any of you learned any Latin. There was a little sort of, almost like a nursery rhyme, which some of us boys made up at school. Latin is a language as dead can be. And then where it went from there, I forget actually. That was in New Zealand. I started school the day I turned 5. Anyway, yes, so the Lord, the Supreme Lord, His body, He has a body, but His body is not like our bodies, temporary, prone to ignorance and suffering, regularly suffering. Who can say they have not been in hospital? Not many. And if you haven't, don't worry. You'll be there sooner or later. I've spent more time in hospital in the last about 5 years than all my time before. Yeah, anyway, so these material worlds temporarily full of ignorance and prone to suffering. Generally the suffering is more prominent than the happiness. Although of course there is some happiness, but not so much. So that when the Supreme Lord comes, first of all, in the kingdom of God, the kingdom of God is eternal, and there he is in his eternal form, with his eternal associates, his pure devotees, but from time to time he comes to this material world. He comes in different forms, depending on the circumstances, like historical circumstances, situations like that. And sometimes he sends his representatives. Yeah, people sort of, so to speak, ordinary people like us, but not just ordinary, very, very advanced devotees and lovers of the Supreme Lord, his eternal associates. So they come to try and help the conditioned souls. Help them, not just in the sense, so many people think that religion means you pray to God, okay. But so many people think that really what it means is you pray to God for just ordinary material things, better health, maybe a better job, or maybe to stabilize the political situation. Yeah. How about to stop load shedding? Someone must have really prayed hard. Excuse me, but yeah, generally people think that religion means, or often at least, religion means to try to get from God more or less kind of ordinary things, like money, like health. It's an ordinary thing. Normally you'd go to a doctor to get money. Normally you'd get a job to get money. But they pray for some sort of windfall. Suddenly money will just descend on my head. Something along those lines. These sorts of ideas. But actually, our relationship with the Lord and what the Lord comes for when he comes to this material world, he comes to help us not just in those terms. He may also do that. Sometimes he does also do that. But basically, in a foundational sense, he comes to help us to understand what is our real nature as eternal spiritual persons, and then how to reawaken that eternal spiritual nature. And by doing that, in due course, return to the kingdom of God, where life is eternal, full of bliss and full of knowledge. So yes, so on the 19th, just a matter of 9 days from now, is the appearance day. We use the term appearance day when we're referring to forms of the Lord, because it's not like they take birth as we do in the normal sort of biological way. But the Lord, he appears. He just descends and appears, and he doesn't have to go through all the usual experience that we've all been through. Do you remember when you were in your mummy's womb? Not so clearly, because you were there more recently than us old people. Yeah, we don't remember, but we were there. they say 9 months or 9 to 10, whatever it may be, something like that, sort of scrunched up in there. So the Supreme Lord, when he appears within this world, he doesn't have to accept the conditions of this material world. Like in that case, when you appear, you have to be conceived by a father in the womb of a mother, and then stay there for those months and sort of develop gradually till the time you come out. He doesn't have to do that. He's independent of those laws of material nature. So he can appear whenever he wants, wherever he wants, and do what he likes in his eternal spiritual body. So therefore you see, Prabhupada would point out, you see pictures of Krishna. Krishna was on this planet for 125 years. You see pictures of him like at Kurukshetra, at the time of the great battle. And he looks like he's about sort of 18, maybe 20-ish something, just a young fellow. Yeah, because his body is not subject to the conditions of material life. And for that matter, what to speak of appearing as an 18-year-old or 20-year-old, when actually he was around 100. But if he wanted, he could appear like he was a child at that time too, if he wanted, because he's not subject to the laws of material nature, but rather the laws of material nature are under him, functioning, working under him, and he can turn them upside down, make them go back to front, and as he likes, because it's his nature. So Lord Balaram appeared just before Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna appeared, we just, we don't try to ascribe a specific year, but plus or minus 5,000 years ago, some devotees have calculated what year such and such BC by Western calculation. But we just say, in a general sense, about 5,000 years ago. So, Krishna, of course, his appearance day is on the 26th, a week later. Right. Right, yeah, so Lord Balaram is considered the first expansion of Krishna. Krishna, as we mentioned, has innumerable expansions, and he appears in different forms in those different expansions as is appropriate according to the circumstances, historically, socially, like that. Yeah. We assume not exactly different forms precisely, but for different occasions, when different things are happening in our lives, we appear or dress ourselves up. Like on Monday, so many of you will be going back to work, isn't it? What fun. I wish you all the best. But, that's life in this world. That's life. So you'll be going back to work, and you will not be dressed as you are right now. Am I right? Most of you. Maybe all of you. But most of you. You'll be dressed in your work outfit, your suit, or whatever it may be. But here we are. It's our day of Krishna consciousness, so we're dressed appropriately in those terms. Dhoti, kurta, tilak, sari for the ladies, and so on like that. With tilak. Do you go to school with tilak on? No? Okay. I know some devotees in India, some of the children go look to God. So yeah, this is sort of our religious or spiritual presentation of ourselves. And if you're going for some sporting event, I will not mention any names, but we have amongst us a top sports person who competed in the, what's it called, comrades. How many of us could do that? Count me right out, please. Completely out. Even, when I was in my 20s, just don't bother. So someone's a sporting person, and they wear sporting clothes when they go for their sporting events. That's their sort of sporting manifestation or presentation of themselves. And when you go to school, you wear school clothes, of course. Yeah, you wear your school uniform. And you're the same person, but you're presenting yourself differently. Just superficially, it's just clothing. You just take it off and change it in a matter of a minute or two. But it works like that. But Krishna, the Supreme Lord, when there's certain circumstances, he may feel he wants to appear. And so he appears in a different body altogether. Altogether different body. The mood, the circumstances are different. Therefore his mood is different. So he appears in a completely different body, not just different clothes. So Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore he's got the name Krishna, Sanskrit name. It's not exactly a name in the sort of normal sense. We've all got names which were given to us by our parents just shortly after we were born, or maybe they worked it out beforehand possibly, but just after we were born we were given a name, and the great majority of people, they just, even if they're old, they still use the same name. As basically just a label. But the Lord, he doesn't have any mother or father to name him. So, but he has so many forms, and each form has a different name, or even many of the forms have a number of names. But so what are these names? They're not exactly names as we, use the term, but they're descriptive terms, describing him in different ways. But he accepts them as forms of address, as names. Krishna means the all-attractive person. He who has all attractive qualities in full. Generally we accept that this is, you could say, the most appropriate or all-inclusive type of descriptive form of God. That God has all attractive qualities in full. Yes. Like he has all beauty, all knowledge, all power, all fame, all renunciation, and all wealth. Yes. Bahut paisa. Yes. These are considered to be the 6 main opulences. Yeah. So, just earlier today, actually, we had a program in Santa. A whole lot of university students came, and we had a whole thing for several hours. And, they're young people, late teens, early 20s, or thereabouts. So, I mentioned this, how Krishna has all beauty, all beauty in one place. That's Krishna. And, we have some beauty, all of you looking out there. You look nice. You look nice, people. Yes. Not bad. Nice. Good. Very good. But all beauty. Sometimes when Krishna was here, people would see him and they would faint. Unconscious. Just overwhelmed. Overpowered by incredible beauty. We can't even imagine a form like that, can we? Don't worry about Miss America. They just had a big controversy about Miss America anyway. But I don't think when anyone saw this latest Miss America, I don't think anyone fainted. Did anyone faint when they saw you? No? One person? Nobody? Same here. Unless people think with horror sometimes. Yes, but he has all beauty, all fame, all knowledge, all wealth. We all have a bit of wealth. I'm sure everyone sitting here pretty much has a bank account which has something in it. And maybe some of you own a property, a motor car, these types of assets. But in a sense, he just loaned you the money because he owns all the money. And he temporarily loans us for a while. And then, at least when you die, or maybe if you go bankrupt in the meantime, he takes the money back. And then it's not your money any longer. Because it never was, actually. It was just on loan. But he has all wealth. This is God. So Lord Balaram appeared a week before Lord Krishna. And their relationship, even though it's a bit extraordinary, it's quite extraordinary, and it's a bit difficult for the average, everyday, ordinary mind. It's hard to digest. But they are one person in two forms, simultaneously associating together, apparently as brothers, and living like they were brothers, although they're actually two forms of the one person. That's exactly who they are. But they relate as brothers. And, in the Vedic literatures, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam, there's so many detailed descriptions of the interactions between Krishna and Balaram as brothers, as if they're brothers, because they're not exactly like biological brothers, but they accept that relationship with each other. Yeah, and there's so many descriptions, and some really just such wonderful descriptions of the relationship between Krishna and Balaram. And one very interesting thing I'd like to just focus on a bit, and really try and take this in and consider it, is that Balaram's mood, actually, he appeared a week before. So therefore he's considered the older brother, so to speak, in these types of terms. But the thing is that in terms of mood, of attitude, of how he sees himself, how he sees Krishna, and what the relationship is, even though in everyday terms he can be seen as the older brother, but he understands that he has come from Krishna, and therefore he is dependent on Krishna. Krishna has not come from him, but he has come from Krishna. So even though you can say older brother, but his attitude is he sees himself as junior, and he sees himself as servant, being a servant of Krishna, because he knows Krishna's the original, and he has come from Krishna as the original, as the source. So Lord Balaram, there's a number of very interesting and very important points there, or things actually, things that he does in that mood, in that spirit of being a brother, a younger, a junior brother. Interesting little passage coming from Srila Jiva Goswami. Some of you would have heard of him. One of the great devotees at the time of Lord Chaitanya, 500 or so years ago. Jiva Goswami, he gives like a short conversation between Krishna and Balaram. And he says, if you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna, with his famous pointing finger, Krishna points at himself and says, me. He has the right. When you ask him who's God, he says, me. Not me, but him, Krishna. Yeah. But if you ask Balaram who is God, you know what Balaram says? He says Krishna. Krishna's God. And then if you ask Balaram, well, who are you then? Balaram says, I'm a servant of Krishna. That's what I am. Yeah. Yes, I'm a devotee of Krishna. And that's the way he lives, that's the way he thinks, that's the way he acts. He's always engaging in service to Krishna, even though he is directly, the first expansion, they're practically identical, even in appearance. At least they're extremely similar in appearance. The only really noticeable difference is Krishna is blackish or blackish blue. Shyama means the color of a monsoon cloud. Blackish blue, but like very effulgent blackish blue color. And Balaram is white. And when I say white, I don't mean like me white. I mean like Prabhuji's dhoti, you see his clothing there? Look at that. Could you just stand up for a sec? Look at this. Don't mind me. See? This is white, right? It's different from me, right? Isn't it? It's different. Or like the lady's jacket there. That's basically white. Pretty much. Right, so Balaram's white. But other than that, and other than the mood, the sort of basic attitudes they hold, they're the same person. One in two. But actually it's not just one and two, it's one in an infinite number. And some of the forms like Balaram has the same powers as Krishna. Others have less. They're considered partial forms. And some others, like Lord Ramachandra, Lord Ram, another of the Rams, he's also Krishna. He's not another person like you and I, we're just separate people. He's the same person, but he's only partially manifesting himself. And he's manifesting himself in a particular mood and displaying the particular characteristics of the type of person which he's appearing as, which is as a king. So very noble and very sort of morally upright, very just. These types of characteristics are there with Lord Ram. But he's Krishna, but he's just manifesting himself partially. Yeah. But it's not that he's another person, and it's not that if he wanted to, he would not be able to manifest all the potencies of Krishna. He would be able, but he understands his position, he understands his role, and therefore he appears in, you could say, a limited form compared to Krishna. Limited, okay, compared to Krishna, but compared to us, Krishna, with one flick, he could wipe all of us out completely. Billions of us off the face of the planet, just like that. Nothing, just nothing for him. So anyway, Balaram is the same as Krishna, except there's the difference of color, but then there's the difference of attitude, that Krishna sees himself as being God. He is. And he sees himself like that, conducts himself like that. And that's how he lives, and that's how he is. But Balaram, he knows who he is, but he's accepted this position as the servant, as the devotee. Therefore, it's interesting, I'll tell you some of the things that Balaram does. He, first in terms of appearing in other different forms, he expands. Now this would be a bit sort of esoteric for many of you, but in the spiritual world, there are two levels in the kingdom of God. In the higher level, then Krishna is there, that's his home. And Balaram is there. And he expands, Balaram expands in a form called Sankarshan, within that highest part of the kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Then from Balaram, it's good you're sitting down, you fasten your seatbelts if you have. From Balaram, from that first Sankarshan in the Goloka region, the topmost region of the spiritual realm, the kingdom of God, then he expands into the Vaikuntha realm, which is like the secondary level of the kingdom of God. In the Goloka realm, then of course Krishna is there, Krishna is God, but everybody loves him so much, they don't really see him as being God. He's the friend or the child or the nephew or like this, loving relationships. Love is higher than power. In Vaikuntha, the secondary realm, he manifests as the powerful Supreme Lord, and is worshipped as the most powerful, Narayan. So these are all coming from Balaram. The Vaikuntha realm comes from Balaram, from Sankarshan, who's come from Balaram, so it's sort of the same difference, if you get it. And yes, so he oversees the Goloka realm, then he oversees the Vaikuntha realm, the secondary level of the kingdom of God. Then he expands into this world as Mahavishnu, from whom all the universes come, not just all the planets. That's down the level a bit further. But first of all the universes in this material world come from Mahavishnu, who comes from Sankarshan, who comes from Balaram. And then from Mahavishnu comes Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. He's within each universe. Mahavishnu is overseeing all the universes. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is overseeing each universe. And then comes Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. He is within every atom. And he's within our hearts. But it's not just within our hearts. He's within every atom. Talk about being in a good position to control what's going on. Ask Cyril Ramaphosa. Has he managed that one yet? So yes, the Lord, as Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, is within every atom and within our hearts. And therefore he's controlling this material world just to, you could say, the nth degree of intricacy. Just fantastic intricacy. Yeah. But that's not all. That's not all. In the different pastimes of Lord Krishna, Balaram always appears to assist. Like when Krishna appeared as Lord Ram, Balaram appeared as Lakshman. When Krishna appeared as Lord Chaitanya, Balaram appeared as Lord Nityananda. He's always right there to assist, to help in the pastimes. One sort of, you could say intricacy, but it's a very nice thing and very interesting thing, that when Krishna appeared as Lord Ram, I mean, the great majority of you sitting here would know the story, at least to some degree, of Lord Ram, no doubt. And you would know how, for example, Sita, his wife, Ram's wife, was apparently kidnapped. And it was a whole thing to get her back. So, just immediately before that, Maricha, one like magician, black magician, or something like that, came in the form of a beautiful little baby deer, and Sita became attracted and said to Ram, her husband, "Get the deer for me, catch the deer." And Lakshman said, "Don't do it. It's too good to be true. Looks too beautiful. It's some mystical trap. It's a trick." So he told Ram, "Don't go, just let the deer go." But Sita insisted, so Ram went after the deer. And it's a long story, but in the end, Lakshman, who was meant to protect Sita in the absence of Ram, had to go to find Ram, and Ravana came and kidnapped Sita. I mean, you must know that story. They came back, and Lakshman was thinking, I said it. He was just thinking, he didn't speak it. I knew it was the wrong thing to go chasing that deer. He shouldn't have gone chasing that deer. But I couldn't say anything, because I'm the younger brother. And when you're the younger brother, you're stuck. You can't say anything. So Lakshman thought, next time I will be the older brother. So the next time they appeared, he was Balaram, and he was the older brother. And so, he helped to sort of supervise Krishna so he didn't get into too much trouble. Yes, anyway, so he even appears in all the rasas. different forms. Listen to this. Just listen to this. In the mood of servitude, there are basically 5 types of relationships a living entity can have with the Lord. First is a neutral relationship, which means you just appreciate, wow, he's really great. But there's no sort of natural activity other than appreciation, wow. But then the second mood is one of servitude. Now that being impressed is still there, but now it stimulates action. He's so great, I must serve him. And then the third is a relationship of friendship, where the mood of service is still there, but in a more intimate, closer type of way. Then a mood of parenthood, where the Lord becomes dependent on the devotee. And then finally, the fifth relationship, conjugal relationship, where the devotee becomes something like the wife of the Lord, something along those lines. So Balaram appears in all those relationships. In the neutral relationship, he becomes the Lord's bed. If you ever see a picture, or like in the temple in Lens, the little deities are put in a bed, right? The bed is a form of Lord Balaram to serve the Lord. He becomes the Lord's pillow, the Lord's fan, the Lord's house, the Lord's umbrella, his shoes. Any shoes of the Lord, they're forms of Balaram in that neutral. Neutral comes servitude mood. Any ornaments, sitting place. When the Lord fights, Balaram becomes his weapons. Yeah. And let's see, throne, his clothes, all the clothes of Krishna or Lord Chaitanya, they're forms of Lord Balaram. Did you ever think about that? Those of you who are pujaris, they're forms of Lord Balaram. Yeah. And therefore one name of Balaram is Shesha, which means paraphernalia, the sort of the things that belong to the Lord. Yeah. And in the friendship and servitude, he's his friend, he's his brother. Very amazing. And of course, there's a very famous sort of a pastime, but a picture. Have you seen the picture where little baby Krishna is lying on a big, like a banyan leaf, and he's floating? Are you familiar with that picture? Anyway, try and find it. But some of you may have seen Krishna's floating on a leaf. The leaf is floating on some water, and Krishna's lying on it, baby Krishna. And baby Krishna is sucking his big toe. You know that picture? One devotee asked Krishna, "Why are you sucking your toe?" Krishna replied, "Because so many of my devotees say my lotus feet are very sweet, and I wanted to find out. And now my conclusion is that yes, my feet are very sweet." And then Krishna floated away on the leaf. The leaf is a form of Lord Balaram. So Srila Jiva Goswami, is just such an expert on these things. He says, there is practically nothing which Lord Balaram is not. in terms of assisting Krishna in his pastimes. It's practically nothing. Because his mood, his desire to serve and please Krishna is just so strong. And as Balaram, mainly his mood is fraternal as a brother, because he is the brother, so to speak. But his mood is also parental, because he looks after Krishna and just makes sure Krishna's okay and, doesn't get into trouble. Then Balaram appears in even the conjugal rasa as a girl. He appears as Ananga Manjari, who is the sister, younger sister of Srimati Radharani. She is a form of Lord Balaram. So Jiva Goswami says, there's practically nothing which Lord Balaram is not to Krishna as a servant. It's really amazing. It's really amazing, and it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful because he has understood the point that to be a devotee is not bad. To give yourself in a mood of service and trying to please selflessly to a higher person is not bad. I forget if it's in, which classical literature or drama it's in. Dante's Inferno, or I forget what it is, but somebody there says, better to be king in hell than servant in heaven. He got it wrong. He got it around the wrong way, unfortunately. Better to be a servant of the Lord, than to be some sort of so-called great person. Because all these so-called great people, they all come down in flames sooner or later. Where is Donald Trump going to end up? It'll be somewhere, somewhere undesirable. Because all these people, big people, they become reduced. Eventually they become reduced to dead bodies, actually. But in the meantime, they become reduced to insignificance. Like Nelson Mandela, such a famous person. He was the second most famous person in the world at his peak, second to the Pope. At least some group said that. But in the end he became, he just became sort of lost. Dementia. And when you got dementia, doesn't matter what your post was before. Now you've got dementia and you're basically finished. So that's life in this material world. It reduces even the biggest, supposedly most important person to literally nothing. So anyway, Lord Balaram is such an example for us. Such an example for us. That even though he's such a great person, second only to Lord Krishna, but his immediate thought is, I must serve. I must serve him. So what an example for us. Wonderful example for us. Perfect example. We should just focus on being servants. And, even Krishna himself, eventually, Balaram's understood for a long time, must be in a mood of service to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna only figured that out more recently, when he became Lord Chaitanya. There's a whole story behind that. We won't go into that now. Normally he accepts the role of Supreme Lord. But as Lord Chaitanya, actually he saw that my devotees enjoy greater happiness in serving me than I get from being served by them. When Lord Krishna returned to the spiritual world from here 5,000 years ago, he was thinking what he had been doing and how wonderful it was being here, and how there were so many devotees who loved him so much and who served him so much and gave him so much happiness through their service to him. He became so happy. But then a thought struck him that even though I was so happy being served by these devotees, it seems to me they were more happy through serving me than I was happy through being served by them. So Krishna thought about that. Different devotees and how much happier than he was. They were different levels. Someone was twice as happy. Someone was 10 times happier. Someone was 100 times happier through serving him than he was happy by being served by them. Finally, he came to Srimati Radharani, and he understood she was 10 million times happier than him by serving him than he was through being served by her. So then Krishna decided, right, that's it, had enough. I'm going to stop this being God, or just sort of playing that role. I'm going to become a devotee. So he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in the mood of being a devotee of the Supreme Lord, just to experience the nectar of that. But Lord Balaram has understood all of that for a long time. He's very deep, Lord Balaram, extremely deep. Let me close. Well, you never know when I'm going to close, actually. But let me try to close by telling you a little story of Lord Balaram. If you want to look it up, it's in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Some of you may have that book at home, 3-volume set. So in the last volume, the 3rd volume, the main, not exactly hero, but just the main person, he's trying to go back to the kingdom of God. Finally, he gets there. He arrives in Goloka Vrindavan. And it's sort of late-ish afternoon, and all the residents of Vrindavan are coming out to meet Krishna when Krishna returns from herding the cows. And they're all coming out with arti paraphernalia and different garlands and things to greet Krishna and to receive Krishna. And there is this devotee who just arrived. He just arrived on the scene. Didn't even know where he was until he asked someone. His name was Gopakumar, means young cowherd boy. So Gopakumar, he's surrounded by all these people. They're going out to meet Krishna. He's going with them. So they're going out. Suddenly, Krishna, at some little distance, maybe 100 meters or whatever, Krishna sees Gopakumar, who's just arrived from the material world. And Krishna comes running to meet Gopakumar. And Gopakumar comes running forward to meet Krishna. And they meet just sort of ahead of the main group. And they embrace each other. And it's just really intense, seeing intense emotions meeting after how long separation, long time. And Krishna's that they're embracing. Krishna's so overwhelmed, he faints. And Gopakumar doesn't faint, he's standing there looking at Krishna who's on the ground. What happened? Then all the other people catch up. And all the other people, they say, all the devotees of Goloka Vrindavan, they say to each other, what happened to Krishna? Who did this to Krishna? Because Krishna's there unconscious. They think he may be dead. Who did this? And they say, we don't know. One of them says, but the last person to touch him was him, Gopakumar. And they say to each other, who is he? And the others say, we don't know, we haven't seen him before. Because Gopakumar has been away in the material world for a long time. So they say, we don't know who he is. Someone says, maybe he is a servant of Kamsa, the great enemy of the Lord. So they start closing in on Gopakumar, like they're going to do something. And Lord Balaram sees that. And Lord Balaram is very expert in interpersonal dealings. Lord Balaram quickly kneels down by Krishna, who's prostrate, lying on his back on the ground, grabs Gopakumar by the hand, pulls him down, makes him kneel or sit on the ground, and puts Krishna's head on the lap of Gopakumar, then takes Gopakumar's hand and makes his hand stroke the head of Krishna, like he's, trying to help Krishna recover. And suddenly Krishna recovers. And Krishna's like, oh, he's happy again. And everyone sees Krishna's all right. And they say, oh, who saved the life of our Krishna? It was him. There's this new person, we don't even know who he is. It's Gopakumar. So Gopakumar suddenly becomes a hero. Everyone's extremely happy with him. This is by the arrangement of Lord Balaram. As a servant, he's helping to serve and sort of embellish and enrich the pastimes. And did I say I would close? Did I say that? Did you hear me say that? Or you didn't? No, probably not. Let me close by telling you one little story which involves Srila Prabhupada on the subject of Balaram, Krishna and Balaram. There were two devotees, disciples of Prabhupada, very senior, very good devotees. Unfortunately, they both passed away. But they were having like a debate. It was almost an argument. Is there a difference between Krishna and Balaram or not? So the male, what was his name? Anyway, what was the name? Such and such Swami. Anyway, that one. He was saying, no difference. There's no difference. There's a difference in color, but it doesn't make any difference. So there's no difference. But Mother Yamuna was the other one, and she said, no, there is a difference. Because only Krishna is the enjoyer of Radharani, not Balaram. So like this, it was going back and forth. And the name of this devotee, the sannyasi, I'm sure it'll come to me. Well, we'll see. So Tamal Krishna Goswami, who was Prabhupada's assistant, came and saw this, it had come to the point of being like an argument that it was getting fairly heated. It was getting pretty heated. Madhu Devisa Swami. So Tamal Krishna Goswami, who was Prabhupada's personal secretary, took them to Prabhupada. And he explained to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Madhu Devisa Swami and Yamuna Devidasi, they're having this discussion about, is there a difference between Krishna and Balaram? And Madhu Devisa Swami says, there's no difference. There's a difference in color, but it doesn't make it a real difference. So there's no difference. Prabhupada said, he's right. Then Tamal Krishna Goswami said, but Mother Yamuna says, there is a difference in that Krishna is the only enjoyer of Radharani. And Srila Prabhupada said, she's right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, but Prabhupada, they can't both be right. And Prabhupada said, you're right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, how should we understand this, Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, you decide. In other words, Hare Krishna. Don't worry about it, just carry on. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Sri Balaram Ji Ki.